Hello, everyone. Welcome to our ongoing series of extending OnBase across your organization. This time, we're having a special edition where we're going to concentrate a little bit more on the behind-the-scenes technical look, and this will feature some of the newest tips and tricks that we've learned on some of the latest releases, like 22.1 and 23.1. So we're going to give you some quick overviews of who's presenting today, and we will go into the agenda, and then we'll get going and let you guys see some cool stuff. My name is Jack Roberts. I am the founder of TSC and been around the OnBase world. For those of you who haven't met me yet, I've been around the OnBase world since the year 2000. And then we are joined today by Connie Mae Cooper, who's a senior solutions consultant here at TSC, as well as Paul Wolf, who's a senior solutions team lead here at TSC. Just tell you, in case you haven't been around us and you're from a different organization, TSC is all about ECM. That's what we do. We're going to be here to help you. We have a focus with OnBase, and all of our peers recognize us of having deep technical knowledge. We appreciate the fact that anybody that works here must have a minimum of 10 years experience with OnBase specifically. So most of our people have well into the closer to the 20-year range, but we like to make sure everyone knows that even if you're going to work support, you have to have 10 years to be here. With that, we have numerous certifications. You can see that. You'll get a copy of this video afterwards. So if you want to read up and see every little thing that we have there, feel free to know that we are here for you. Just know that one of the things that most people don't think about that we do also offer is advanced capture, including some AI integration work. One thing we're proud about here at TSC is in 2023, we did get the Core Solution Provider Award for our competency in low-code app development with OnBase, basically your workview solutions. We have put together many workview solutions throughout and found that it is a very powerful tool and very excited about the opportunities to expand it even further. Highland's done some really cool stuff with that workview solution, and then you're going to see a couple of those things today when we go through the agenda. And for your agenda today, we're going to keep it pretty straightforward. We're going to have workview, view, and edit tools. This is something that I think a lot of people may not know about unless you've been to a tech quest or you've been in there developing hardcore lately and you just like to go out and watch the videos on the university if you have a premium subscription. One of the new cool features is application builder. This is something new to 23.1 that is going to be a game changer, we believe. We will have a dedicated webinar to this, and it won't be technical, but it'll be for the end users, the people that you feel like could benefit from this. Some OnBase admins will want to be there for that. That's in February coming up. We'll talk about that a little later. We have reporting dashboards. Such a powerful tool. Most people just tip the iceberg of it. You can really be using this for so much more. We use it for data analytics here, as well as have implemented many solutions for our customers that they had no idea the power that OnBase could bring to them, because they have their information stored in OnBase, but then they don't really know how to get to it other than doing a query or custom query. Well, the reporting dashboards is a game changer as well. Then we're going to talk about the OnBase administration portal. That is the new way that you're going to be getting into config as we go forward. You'll be able to see some things now as each release comes out. You're going to see more and more that you can get into config via a web client and not have to have the actual thick client and the thick config around for most things. IMA services, aka SSO integration, Highland's IDP kind of a solution. We're going to talk about that and go into detail as we go through and set that up. You'll see that there's certain screens. We will be showing the latest and greatest screens so that you can have those. There is a whole matrix out there that you can see what version of OnBase supports these different things. I won't steal any of Paul's thunder, but there's some cool stuff he's got showing there. Uniforms. I think all of us are familiar with uniforms, but know that there are some cool things that happened lately. And if you're upgrading from an older version that had uniforms to a newer version, Paul's going to tell you about a game changer, life-saving thing that we found out the hard way that we want to share with you all. There's some stuff about the diagnostics console that we added to this webinar just because there's some stuff that people, especially the cloud customers, don't really know about in Diag Console that you can do that would be originally in the old thick client. So we just want to make sure you're aware of that. And then finally, we're going to wrap it up with talking about the new online support documentation compared to the old MRG solutions, and just to give you a preview of some of that. And with that, Connie May, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. So Jack did mention that WorkView is already part of the OnBase platform. It is an add-on module, but it's a very powerful way to create solutions. And think of it about being data process driven rather than document process driven. And then views are how data is presented to the user. So that's what we're going to take a look at, is specifically views and some tools that were added to view creation. So they're called cards and cars. Cards are built-in elements that you can use to streamline your layout creation. It makes it a very crisp, very clean looking. I'll show you in a minute what it looks like. What's cool about it is it's drag and drop functionality. There's already things put into place so you don't have to create each element individually. And then there's no need to create or assign CSS formats. It's just native to the view builder. And if you've ever worked with CSS formats, very, very neat to dress a view up, but sometimes a little kludgy to work with. And then there's CARS, and CARS is actually an acronym for Custom Action and Rules System. And imagine, if you will, custom actions in a Unity form where you can make a field visible or make it hidden or make it required versus not required. Now you can access or you can leverage that same type of functionality in WorkView views. Very, very cool. And you can control an entire form or just elements within the form. And both cards and cars are available in versions 22.1 and higher. And again, I want to just mention that they are part of the platform, so they're upgrade safe, unlike custom scripts, because some of these things you can do with custom scripts. But as you may be aware, that every time you upgrade, you have to go back and verify that all your custom scripts are still compatible. So with that, I'm going to go into a demo and show you exactly what I'm talking about. So here is a view. I'm going to go back to the traditional view so you can compare them side by side. And notice all of the elements that are needed for this particular object are here and available. And the designer did try to call different things out, like the case record, call it the defendant and attorney, and then break up the activity by putting carriage returns and putting line breaks and things like that. But with the card view, I can get that same breakout, but in a very more distinct and very user-friendly, very interactive or visually appealing layout. And creating a card view is actually quite easy. But before we go into actual, go into the actual demonstration in Studio, I just want to show you the difference. So on the left is all the elements that took to put together that basic card, basic view. And then with the card view, I was able to reduce the number of elements almost by half. So again, much easier to build. And then this is what the two views look side by side. So you can get a visual idea of all of the same information is presented here, but much easier to interpret and read and navigate with the card view. So I am going to go back into my demo and I'm going to go straight into Studio. And here's that view that we were looking at before with all of the pieces that it took to put this together. And then this is what the card view looks like. And to show you just how easy it is to create a card view, I'm going to go into my views in my repository under Work View. I'm going to create a new view, and I'm going to create a view for the warrant and charge information. So as a preparation, I'm going to show you the original warrant and card view, or warrant and charge view. Too many words that start with C. So this is what it looks like traditional. Now I'm going to create one as a card. I'm still going to put in those elements that make it visually appealing, like carriage return at the top. But now instead of starting with a table, I'm actually going to start with a card. And it's going to expand to fill everything. And I'm going to bring this down to 90% just because if it comes in a little bit, it's visually appealing. I'm still going to use tables, but notice that there's already elements inside here that are set up. So I don't have to put a label in. I already have a label available to me. So I'm going to change this to warrant and charge information. And now I'm going to create a table here. I'm only going to have it one row, but I want it 4 columns because I want those 4 pieces of information to be displayed across there. And then I'm going to put another table in that's going to be 2 by 2 for my other component. And now I can start dropping in all of my attributes that I want displayed in my form. And just like tables, it will auto distribute because I haven't changed any of my proportions. And then in my next place, I'm going to put the jail drop down, and I'm going to add the description. And so I have the same number of attributes on each view, but I don't quite like the way this is distributed. So I'm going to select this table, and I'm going to say I want my first column to be much narrower. So I'm going to bring that down to 35%. And now I still don't like the way that this is balanced. I'd like jail to be up at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change my alignment to push everything to the top. Oh, I like that much better. And I don't need quite this much room for my description. So instead of having it be 200 pixels, I'm going to change it to 100 pixels. And voila, I've created a view with just a few clicks. Again, everything's drag and drop or select from a list. Very easy to create and gives you a much nicer way for the user to interact with the data. So the other thing I talked about was CARs, custom actions and rules. And I don't know if you noticed, but when an attorney name was in here, we can actually go back and I'll show you because it'll make more sense if you see it. So these 2 fields, ours, are showing because there's an attorney name here. Well, if there's not an attorney name picked, then these 2 fields aren't really necessary. So I'm going to create a new form. And those 2 fields are not there because they're not relevant to a view when there's no attorney picked. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pick an attorney. I'm going to save because I have this set to execute on load. And now that it's loaded, those fields are visible. And the way that I did that was in my view, I have the entire view selected. There's a tab over here for scripts. Zoom in on this so you can see where it's at. It's in your properties screen. It's called scripts. And right now, I don't have the option of adding another rule, but I'm going to just to show for demonstration purposes, this one does not have a rule selected. So I go to the scripts tab and I'm going to say on load, I want to add a rule, and then I can add a rule. Since I already have one built out here, we're going to go back and show you the one that's already built. And again, I'm going to do it in my canvas. And what I'm telling the form is that on load, if the attorney name is empty, then change these two fields hours to not visible. And because I have no additional conditions in here, it will reverse in the opposite. Now you can add additional operations to the same group, or if you want to have additional groups, you can add additional groups as well. I'm going to add another group. I'm going to add an operation. The conditions on which you can qualify on is compare a field value, and a compare field value could be an assigned value or not null or is null. All of those are available, or you can identify if a user group. So I'm going to say that if the user is in the attorney group, then I'm going to add an action that says I'm going to set the field for case status to required. So if I'm an attorney, then I must fill in case status. If I'm another user who may not know the status or is just viewing it, it's not a required field. So you can add as many conditions, and you can nest conditions. There's an otherwise here to control how a form behaves so that you can make it easier on the user. If they don't need to see something, then hide it from them. But those are what you can do with custom action and rules. Any questions about custom action and rules?
Thank you, Connie Mae. It does look like we did have a couple questions come through. The first, in respects to cards, are they collapsible?
You can add additional CSS settings to them to make them collapsible, but no, if you're using collapsible, it's probably better to put it in a table.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And then the last one, Connie Mae, as a user, can I create my own conditions and actions, or is it more of what you see is what you get?
It is what you see is what you get. Where the power comes in is because you can nest them, you can create different conditions, but the available conditions and the available actions are what is available in the rules piece.
Perfect, thank you, Connie Mae.
So cards and cars, again, are native functionality. They do not require additional view for upgrades. And for additional resources, cards is listed in the work view user guide, and Paul's going to talk a little bit more on how to access this. But if you search under custom action and rule system, you will find the how to right in the support guide online. And then cards was introduced in Foundation 22.1, and it is featured in video 3 in the workview latest enhancements that are out there. Again, there's a link to it should you want to take a look at it. And that is a free video to anyone. With that, I'm going to move on to App Builder. And as Jack said, this really is a game changer. It's new with OnBase Foundation 23.1, and it allows you to build user-specific or persona-based web interfaces. So imagine you have a user that all they ever do is review and approve things from their queue, and they really don't get involved in custom queries, and they really don't get involved in retrieval and acquire and all of the other wonderful rich features that are in the Unity client, and they just want to get to their work and have it easy to get to and just be done with it. Or you want to create a launching pad for someone who works in HR and they work in searching for policy documents. And you could create an app builder for just those things and narrow their focus. But again, it's persona-based and specific to the user. So with that, I'm going to go into the demo again. And this time, instead of looking at Studio right away, we're going to go into the web. And what I'm going to present here is a application that was built for Highland County. And here's the user, and this user works primarily with agenda management. They are responsible for monitoring dog licenses too, so I can put, again, what this user group would typically use. I have my applications across the top so they can quickly jump to what they need. Or again, I have tiles here. This one is the tiles are for queues. I can also generate a new Unity form here. So if they want to initiate a new agenda item, they can. It takes them directly to that form. You can also add functionality for document upload. You can add for custom queries. So in this place, I have the queues that they're available to this person, along with a custom query. But if you wanted it to be on this front page and as a tile, those tiles are very easy to build. I'm looking at this too, and I'm saying, well, this blue is a little bright. I don't like that, and I'd like to add a logo. So again, going back to a tool that you already know, which is Studio, I'm going to go to the App Builder tab. Again, it's in your repository. Right there, App Builder. I'm going to select my App Builder, and here is, I'm going to close this because we don't really need to look at it right now. I first built sources based on existing items that have been built in workflow. So I have a custom query, I have my queues, I also have some actions that I've added here. But if I want it presented on that first screen, I'm going to add a new tile. So the tile that I'm going to add is I'm going to add the department head queue. Again, the source has to already exist, but I built these sources all. Click and drop downs, click and point, department head queue. I'm also going to create one for the clerk. And if you want to make the labels more descriptive, you can. And then for my screen, that blue is too bright, so I want to make it more of a gray blue. So I'm going to click more colors, and I'm going to take it to a nice dark shade of blue. So now I've changed the color. And then on my applications page, I've already uploaded a logo, but you can add your own logos. So yeah, I want that county logo there. So I'm going to save my changes. I'm going to go back and I'm going to log out. And of course, it didn't take, it's not loading yet. I reset my cache, but it takes a while to catch up. Anyway, with any good demo, one has to misbehave. But you could see how easy it was to create it in Studio. We'll try it one more time and then we'll go on. You'll have to trust me that it does. It really is that simple. There we go. So there's the logo and the darker color, and now I have all 4 Q listed here, and I can go directly to the queue and do the work that I need to get done. Select the item, and there's all of my ad hoc tasks for that queue. So I can submit department head, I can skip workflow. Any activity that is available in that queue is available in the app builder. Any questions about app builder?
Kaname, it looks like we did have one question that came through. Are there special user groups required in OnBase to create or use the app builder?
You do not have to create specific user groups for App Builder. App Builder is going to rely on all of the objects that you already have created. So if you have a specific user group, you're going to apply just like you would in other applications or other things that you build in Studio. You do assign who has rights to different objects, who can do certain actions. So no, it uses the built-in. If someone has rights to a queue, then they have rights to the app builder. So you do not have to have specific users for the app. I did want to mention one thing. You're welcome. The additional resources, there is a product overview on Highland Community if you want to learn more about App Builder. And what's really nice is there is a try lab. So you can try it on tryhighland.com App Builder and see if it would work for you. It is a very powerful because you can custom create applications for a persona or for a role. You can also, what I wanted to mention is this was released in 23.1. We've heard rumor that WorkView will be introduced in 24, in version 24. So we're looking forward to that it will be extended to WorkView as well as workflow. The last thing I wanted to talk about was reporting dashboards. And again, reporting dashboards has been around for a long, long time. And a lot of people use it for generating list reports, which is handy, but there's so much more. And if you start thinking about reporting dashboards as being analyze your data in meaningful ways and just not displaying it, is where the power really comes in. So I'm going to jump back to my demo. And here's the dashboard that's been created. I used a heat map here. So what's nice about this is just with a blink of an eye, I can see where my time is going. And this kind of makes sense because these are our major customers, and I have some that are not as much activity. And a good portion goes to TSC, which kind of makes sense. This is what I would expect. If this visual was out of whack, I could quickly look at something and dive in deeper and see, okay, who's working on it? Okay, that kind of makes sense. Oh, Victor should be putting way more than 51 hours on this, so I need to see what's going on. But again, very quickly you can visualize what's going on. The other thing is, here's a pie chart, and I'm looking at my different projects, and it all seems well balanced. So again, visually, I can instantaneously see if the data I have is making sense or it's measuring up. For a list report, you can do counts of items. So here's a count of all of the project entries that are in there. I can do sums. So this is a total of all the hours. Or I can do an average hour per task. I can add any of these elements directly to my list. These 4 sections are all different ways to filter things. So I'm going to have you think about how you treat dates, because right now I can filter by the year, or by the month of the year, or by the week of the year, all from the same filter. Allows me to very quickly drill down to what I'm looking at. So I want to see what happened last week, the second week of January. And again, everything updates proportionate or filtered based on what I selected. So now I'm looking at a condensed. My average went to 3 hours. Okay, that kind of makes sense. Now these two up here are what's called cards, and that allows you to create something, and I can drill down on a card. But unfortunately, these cards are really big, so I'm not getting a very good visual. And this first card, I actually have two ways that I can look at things. I can look at it by hours, or I can look at it as a count by company. So thinking out how you want to view your data will make reporting dashboards even more powerful. Just quickly go into design to show you where I did some of these things. So I said to think about dates in a little different way. Here's that filter. So I use the same data element, which is timesheet date, displaying it once by year, once by month, and then by week of the year. And that's what allows me to have these different drop downs. These totals at the bottom, this one, I have this element selected, and I can then go to my column, click on the down arrow, add total. So now I can show minimum, maximum, average, sum, count. All of these things can be added at the bottom of the column just by clicking on what total you want. And the last tip I want to share, because this is something that unless you've done it or experimented, you wouldn't know it's there. The little gear opens up the card settings, and I can then make this compact, bring my sizing down. Now I have 6 cards that fit in this block instead of just one. Still not ideal, so you need to play with sizing, but you'll find one that works for the type of data that you're trying to display. And in this one, where I had this little additional value, I can change how I want to display it based on adding additional sections in my card, and that's what this then allows you to pick between hours or between company. So all very powerful ways of displaying data and making it meaningful to you. Any questions?
No questions so far, Kaname.
Okay. So again, if you have premium subscription, there are some very good tutorials on in the support in the premium subscription in Highland University, and also there's an entire section, or there's an entire MRG in a support library dedicated to reporting dashboards. This information is all there. So with that, again, if you ever need more information, you're welcome to contact us at TSC, and we'd be happy to assist you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul.
All right, welcome everybody. What I am going to talk about is, my first topic is the OnBase administration portal. How many of you have ever been in OnBase Studio, say, and admin calls you and asks to create a keyword? So in the old days, you had to shrink down Studio, open up configuration, go to keywords, go and create your keyword and set it up. Well, with the administration portal that was introduced first in 22.1, we now have a web-based OnBase configuration tool for system administrators. This tool is really not meant to replace OnBase configuration application yet. We'll get to that later on. But within the OnBase administration portal, you can create things such as keyword type groups, keywords, doc type groups, doc types, users, user groups, and file formats. The OnBase administration portal can also be accessed through a website, the OnBase admin portal website. And it's an IIS install just like AppNet and App Server. And for the users on the line that are cloud customers, this is available in the cloud. You just need to work with your provider or with TSC support to have that added. So that's pretty much the introduction slide. So let's go and see what this actually looks like. So here we're showing the OB admin portal web page. And here's my home page, my system settings. Really what you have to set up in here is your application server URL and your admin portal home URL. In here you can set up users. So I can go and I can set up a user just by clicking the create user and then give it a username, demo user, and demo@tsc.com. And then we'll hit the next step. And we can give this a password. And you can view what that password is. And we can tell OnBase this is a temporary password. And then hit our next step. And this is where we can assign this user to groups. So we're going to assign this user to the 9-Second Food HR Review group just by single clicking on it. There's no need to double click. And the HR Reviewer Managers group. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to say create user. So now this user's been created. I want to go ahead and view my user. And I can choose to allow the user to change their password or require the user to change their password at next logon. I can lock my user here. And I can unlock my user. And I can also see what groups my users are in and if they have admin rights or not. And I can automatically deactivate this client after a certain date. And then I can give it my date, 120. Let's say this is 1/20/2024. This user is going to deactivate. Go ahead and hit save, and my user's created. And I can do the same with user groups. I can create keyword type groups and create keywords. We'll go ahead and create a keyword. And we'll just call this keyword demo1. Hit next. And this is an alphanumeric keyword. And then we're going to give this a length of 200. And we'll say create keyword. I can view my keyword type or I can create another keyword. I'm going to click view keyword type. And here's all my keyword type options, similar to what you see in OnBase configuration. I can tell this to use a data set. I can show the values in this as a dropdown. This has not been assigned to any document type yet, but once we assign this keyword to document types, it will appear under this list. And I can choose my display options. So everything in here is what you see in OnBase configuration, just at a more linear view than going through the different buttons with that OnBase configuration has for keywords. So you can also do keyword type groups, or not keyword type, document type groups, and you can create document types. So we'll create a document type real quick and assign that demo1 keyword to it. So we'll call this demo1. The keyword type group we're going to add this to is insurance claims. Default file format we'll say is image file. And the default disk group is going to be the data disk group. And again, similar to how you start setting up a doc type in OnBase configuration. So the keywords, I'm just going to search for demo, and I'm going to choose my demo1 keyword and hit next step. And I'm going to assign this to the HR review employees and the HR review managers. and click Create Document Type. And again, I can view my document type. And as you can see over here with the list on the right, this is all the options that are available within OnBase configuration, just in a more linear screen than what you're seeing here. So we can assign the auto name string, keyword types, and then if we want to go look at OnBase configuration for these, here just to prove that these are actually created, we'll go to keyword types, and go down to the Ds, and here's my demo 1 keyword that I just created. And I'll hit close, and then I'll go look for my demo document type. So if I look for demo, here's my demo 1 document type that I just created with the keyword of demo 1. So everything that you create within the OnBase administration portal is automatically viewable within OnBase configuration. Even if you do have it open, you do not have to select disk management, relaunch to view the new options. Now this application can also, we'll go ahead and close this. This application can also be launched from OnBase Studio. With an OnBase Studio, we will have this OnBase administration portal option. And to configure this, underneath properties, there's a new option called OnBase administration portal. So you would choose that and then just enter your URL to your admin portal site. And then when you're ready, you can just go and click the button. It'll launch the admin portal site, ask you to log in. And this login may look different, but that's what the IDP login looks like. And then you're brought right back to the same site that we were just looking at. And this is all referenced within the administration portal, within the administration portal module reference guide that's available out on the OnBase support documentation website. And just as an FYI, Highland is planning to sunset the thick client and the configuration module in the future, but no set date has been given. So as next versions of the software come out, there'll most likely be enhancements to this administration module to include other functionalities such as autofill keyword sets, folder configurations, just pieces of the software like that. Are there any questions about this module?
Paul, it does look like we did get a question come in. Will I have the ability to create an autofill keyword set in the OnBase admin portal?
Currently not right now. That functionality would still have to be configured with an OnBase configuration, but who's to say it won't be in version 24 or version 25? We just don't know yet.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so the next topic I'm going to talk about is the IAM services. So what is IAM services? It stands for Identity and Access Management, and this includes the Highland Identity Provider Server, which is also known as the IDP server. This was first released in 22.1, and the Identity and Access Management services governs identity management and authentication across the Highland product suite. And when users are configured to log into OnBase using their Active Directory credentials, they will be logged in automatically, and no intervention is required short of using your two-factor authentication tools such as Okta or Ping or other 2FA software that's out and available today. So when the IAM is configured and the users and the security in OnBase is configured to only log into OnBase, the user will see a login screen similar to what you're seeing here. And you actually saw this when I was doing the admin portal demo that I had to actually log in to OnBase using this particular method. When a user launches a website and they're either set up for OnBase credentials or set up for Active Directory credentials, you'll see another section over on the right for external login. What this external login does is it actually takes your 2FA user authentication and launches into that application to enter your 2FA credentials. Once you do that, then you're automatically logged into the OnBase client that you're trying to get to, be it the web client or the Unity client. And as I said, IDP authentication supports standard interactive logons where a user has to enter credentials every time they log in, and it also supports federated logins that use network credentials. The IDP server currently supports standard OnBase authentication, ADFS, CAS, SAML, OIDC, and your IDP environments can be configured for third-party authentication providers such as Okta or Federated Ping or any of the other providers that are out on the market today. And no other licenses are needed or required to use IAM services in the IDP server for authentication. The latest release of IDP is 4.2.0. And to determine what IDP version is needed for your setup, be it whatever version of OnBase you're using, there is a compatibility matrix, and it's located at Highland Community with this link. All right, so with that, we're not going to go through these slides. I'm actually going to show you a live situation of this. So this is one of our clients, and this is their IDP setup. And I think I timed out. Okay, so we're going to go to the PG prod. And when you first go in to set up an IDP provider, you have to give your IDP provider a name. And the user attribute mapping, these are canned Microsoft user attribute mappings. And there is a website to go to get this information. And we can provide that when we send out the slides for this. You can set it up to strip the domain from user provisioning, and then choose your protocol type. Like I said before, this one's set up for SAML, but you can use OnBase, SAML, CAS, WS Federation, OIDC Exchange. So this one is set up for SAML. And one of the very first things that we can do is we can either upload your Active Directory metadata file, or we can enter a path to the metadata file itself. We just need to make sure that the path is accessible. And then we have the entity ID, and then hosts. And once you have all that configured and you hit save, you'll see this option right here, this Highland IDP metadata option. And it'll have your entity ID, and you can download your metadata file. For those users that are cloud customers, this metadata file would then have to be sent to Highland support for them to update the application server side or their side to make this automatic login, this IDP configuration work. Sometimes that process takes longer than others, but it is something that you'd have to work with your provider or support to complete the configuration. Once you have the configuration all set up, you would then go and set up your clients. For this option, we set up our clients, such as your web server or your Unity client. We select our clients option, and we have our IDP web client. We're going to concentrate on the web client for this. So we're going to go into there, and it will automatically give this client a guaranteed unique identifier number. So with this number, we would use this to go into the web config for the AppNet server, the Highland web server, and we would copy this number into that web config. We give our client a name, a description, the protocol type. 9 times out of 10 it's going to be OIDC. Give it a redirect URL. Where do you want the user to be redirected once they log out of the system? You can have your restrictions. They need to put in an authentication code. Your allowed scopes. This is 9 times out of 10 is also going to be OpenID. And you can allow users to log on locally. That will give you, if we go back here, login locally will actually give you this login screen. Without it, you would not see the left-hand side, you would only see the right-hand side of the screen. And then give it what URL you want to be redirected to post logout. And then all this is filled in automatically. The last piece on this is if you want to add a client secret to this IDP client. If this secret is checked, you then have the information over here on the right, where you have to give it a description, a value, if you want this secret to expire, and if this secret is going to be shared. This value can be anything that you want it to be. You just have to remember what you enter in here, because it turns it into a hashed line of what you had entered. Once you're all done with that, you can go ahead and hit save, and it's going to save your new client under the client providers. Are there any questions on this? And again, we can work with you to configure this in your environment. This could be a cumbersome process to set this up the first time, but once it's set up, you'll really like how the security looks. And I mentioned that guaranteed unique identifier. This is what it looks like if you're going into your Unity configuration file. This is under the service locations hive in the obunity.exe.config. There's an IDP URL that is currently just blank. You would enter the URL to your IDP server, and then you would enter that unique identifier that is on the top left of your client screen. And then the authentication type needs to be changed to IDP from standard or from the NT authentication type. So we need to change it to IDP. And again, this is all available in the integrating with Highland IAM services modular reference guide that's available out on the documentation website. And we'll go through that. We'll go through the documentation website in a few minutes. Are there any questions?
Paul, it does look like we did have a question come through. Are there specific providers that IAM supports, and is there a list I can reference?
Yes, currently IAM Services supports the following. It supports OnBase authentication, ADFS, Federation, CAS, SAML2, and OIDC. Not sure if this list is going to grow or if it's just going to stay static. I would say always check with your first line of support on any authentication method that's not in this list currently. Anything else? Anybody else?
I think that's it. Thanks, Paul.
Okay. So Unity Forms. Everybody knows that Unity Forms are used for collecting data, and everybody knows that Unity Forms can be configured for custom actions. But did you know you can choose what custom actions are actually run on a Unity form? And starting in newer versions of OnBase, Unity Forms designers can choose what custom actions are run on a form. When you launch into the Unity Forms designer using version 22.1 or version 22.3, you'll notice that there's checkboxes in front of your custom actions now. Those checkboxes mean that this custom action is available to be used on the Unity form. If those custom actions are not checked, that custom action will not run when you do a test drive of the form, or if you forget to check the boxes and you go and publish the form will be published without the custom action turned on. And like Jack said way at the beginning of this presentation, we found this out the hard way. We upgraded a client and went to run a Unity form, and none of the custom actions ran. Well, we went into Forms Designer and found that none of these boxes were checked. And we upgraded from, we'll say, version 17 to version 22, and none of that functionality was there. We found out that, like I said, none of these boxes were checked. So we turned it all back on. Lo and behold, everything works. This is everything I just said. So we're going to go into the Unity form configuration right now and actually show you how this works. So here's my Unity form. If I go and look at my custom actions, I can see that, okay, I have a complete first name, complete last name, set the manager name, and if I look at what my custom action has, it says if my employee number equals this, set the first name to Paul. If I test drive this, and I actually do employee ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hit tab, you see Paul Wolf, manager Kenny White, department sales. Everything is automatically filled in. But if I go and I turn manager name off and do the same test drive, I enter employee 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hit tab. Now you see that my manager is not populated because I have that custom action turned off. So this is something that Unity Forms designers really need to pay attention to, because if I go and publish this right now, this form is going to be published without my manager name turned on. So just something to remember. Okay, the next thing I'm going to cover is how to copy custom actions. So you have these custom actions, and each one of these custom actions requires the same type of condition to be met. The employee ID equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I need to perform some other actions, but I don't want to have to change that and type it in every time. I can actually select my complete first name, hit copy, give this one a name, we'll call it complete payroll, and say if the employee ID number equals 1, 2, 3, 4, set the value of department code to 5. Hit OK. And now if I have my department code, I can go ahead and test drive this and hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hit tab, and now my department code is set to 5. So that's how to copy it. You can also copy controls. So if I click a control on here, I select my copy control option. I can now create another page on here. I'm going to add a page, and I'm going to take this copied control and place it on my form. So that's selecting custom actions and copying information. So there's the copy functionality, and this is all available in the Unity Forms modular reference guide out on the Highland support site. Highland support download, Highland documentations. Any questions?
No questions so far, Paul.
Okay. All right, so next thing I want to talk about is the Diagnostics Console View Application Server Sessions. This isn't new functionality. This functionality has been there for a long time, but a lot of system administrators don't know that it's there. What this allows you to do is if a user calls you and says, hey, I'm trying to log into the Unity client and it's giving me this license error. And you know there's plenty of licenses available, but some people just don't log out of their machines, or it's been a long time since you've done an IS reset and there could be some stuck sessions out there. There is a way to check who is logged into the application server, and it's the Diagnostics Console tool, View Application Server Sessions. The configuration for this is located in the app server admin session admin security.config file. And what that looks like is it actually looks like this. So this is the session admin security configuration file. To configure this, the allow users would be for this instance, the demo admin user, and these are not OnBase users. These are Windows users, domain users, or domain groups. So here I have my admin user from my local system here, and I also have the administrators group from my local system. This could also be a domain user where you can have your domain/domain admins. To view these, I'm going to go into my Diagnostics Console. And click on Tools and View Application Server Sessions. Here I have my application server that I want to monitor. Make sure it's there and hit Go. And then you see a list of users that are currently logged into your application server. From here, I can disconnect these users. So this user is the idle time has been more than 15 minutes. I can disconnect this user, thus freeing up a license for another user to log into the OnBase system. Now the OnBase Thick client has something similar to this where you can view current users, but that does not give you the ability to disconnect a user. This is where this tool allows you to disconnect users from OnBase to free up licenses if need be. Are there any questions on that?
Paul, it does look like we did have a question come through. Will this functionality allow me to view the workstation registration like I can in the Thick client?
It does not. It does not. All that functionality is still in the OnBase Thick client. It's not available within this tool in Diagnostics.
Great. Thank you, Paul.
All right, so my final topic today is going to be the OnBase documentation portal. Highlands has developed the product documentation portal to replace the publishing of modular reference guides that you're used to using for previous versions of the software. The portal can be accessed at support.onbase.com. So when I go out to support.onbase.com and hit enter, this is the page that I'm brought to. And here you see all of the products that Highland has in their product portfolio. I'm going to choose my OnBase option. And you can enter keywords. What these keywords are is if I type in Unity, for instance, it's going to show me all documents that have to do with the Unity client. Unity forms, Unity client, briefcase, release of information, medical records. I select my Unity client, and here I have my Unity client modular reference guide. I can also see my Unity client window, my medical records Unity, another Unity client. You can tell what the topic covers by looking at this line here. So this is actually the intelligent capture for AP, modular reference guide, installation, pre-installation, OnBase products, Unity client. So you kind of have to do some searching in these to make sure what you're trying to find. But if I just go and do administration portal, here I can see my administration portal overview. When I select that, it shows me the administration portal MRG. You have my overview, and these are set up the same way as a regular MRG. Your definitions, your installation, configuration. And you can also do text searches through these. So if I wanted to look up administration, here's all the entries on this document that have the word administration. If I wanted to go to administration best practices, I just select that and it brings me to best practices. So all the links that you see in the presentation, this will bring you directly to the diagnostics console modular reference guide on the support site, on the support documentation website. Are there any questions on this?
Yes, sir. It does look like we had a question, Paul. Do I have to have a community account to access the Highland product documentation?
It's always encouraged and preferred to have an OnBase, to have credentials to the OnBase documentation site. So yeah, it's best practice to always go and create an OnBase community user ID for yourself.
Great, thank you, Paul.
Is there anything else? Okay, so with that, I will pass it back to Jack Roberts to close us out.
All right, thank you, Paul and Connie Mae and Jack Pompey. Appreciate everybody participating today. I do want to mention the one positive about the portal. I know a lot of us are used to the old PDF method, but the one positive about the portal documentation, the way that they're presenting it, Highland can now update that real time. So if there was a typo or misinformation or there's new information to add, that is the latest and greatest, and you don't have to wait for a new PDF to be published. So that's a pro for that. If you'd like to see more topics, if you want to see more technical topics, or if you think that your organization has certain topics that you're interested in that you think others would be interested in for a webinar like this, please let us know. For our next few webinars coming up on February 15th, we have the OnBase Application Builder, where you can see it in action and see a little bit more of a user interface. I encourage our OnBase admins and those that are out pushing OnBase to the different departments to think about this, because it really does allow you to create a web persona-based solution that doesn't overwhelm them with so many options and places to click, and it'll reduce the amount of support tickets because they start clicking on a button that they shouldn't be clicking on, and then you got to explain why it just messed up their whole system. We're going to follow up with the new OnBase, the new Highland portal solution called Web UI on March 21st. That's kind of exciting new thing. You might have heard of the Highland content portal before. That's with the Jadu kind of action. If you need to collect credit card payments and stuff, that's a great way to go. But the new Highland portal solution with the Web UI is really similar to creating Unity forms, but it gives you the ability to have all the access you're used to with the external access client if you're used to that. But it gives you a way to extend your OnBase solution out and give it a portal so you can interact with vendors, onboarding, offboarding employees, so on and so forth. So we look forward to presenting these next two topics for you. And if you ever have any ideas, please feel free to reach out to salesadmin@tsc-ecm.com. And with that, we thank you all for attending. Appreciate it. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.